I think I've muted all participants here, which is awesome. Please feel free, like I said, to use the chat throughout for questions. We will be monitoring that while my colleagues go through some of the information here. So we'll be able to take a look at your questions and comments throughout the presentation. We'll also have time at the end to circle back if we, for some reason, don't get to your question throughout the slides. So please take advantage of that feature. I wanted to introduce who you're going to be hearing from today. I'm Ellen Ramsey, the director of the Eligibility Center, and I'm just kind of serving as your moderator today. We're really here to hear from Kayla and Paige. Excited to have them representing both our Eligibility Center and our marketing team here at the NAIA. And I'm going to turn it to them to introduce themselves before they jump right into our content.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellen. My name is Kayla Smith. I am the team lead of our customer relations department here in the NAIA Eligibility Center. I've worked in athletics for almost 7 years now, but I've been with the NAIA for about 3 years. And yeah, excited to answer some questions about eligibility. Paige?
Hi, thank you guys so much for your time today to learn more about the NAIA. I'm extremely passionate about the NAIA. I'm over the marketing department along with our athletics communications. So basically everything you see on social or on our website, our departments get to have the ability to actually get the communication about who we are. So want to share a little bit more about who I am as well. I'm also come from the NAIA. I was a student athlete, maybe not just a few years ago, but way back in the day. I am going to talk a little bit about the exciting part about being a dual athlete as well. So maybe you're looking at not only playing one sport in collegiate athletics, but potentially two. And that's one of the really awesome things about the NAIA is the ability to play and be a dual athlete. Because at the NAIA, the student comes first, and you'll hear me talk a lot about that. So I'd like to go ahead and go right into the presentation. Again, we're going to be moderating the questions. So at the different points, we'll stop to make sure there's anything clarifying that we can assist you with. So I want to start off just like a quick overview with NCAA. They're a big brand. They're a big new focus on a lot of times smaller colleges. But the great thing about the NAIA is that we have just as many opportunities with the NAIA. We have just as many opportunities to play. In fact, more opportunities to play within postseason, et cetera. So a little landscape of what we look at. We have over 77,000 student athletes across the entire United States. That includes Canada and the Virgin Islands, along with 250 plus schools across that globe. A lot of times you'll hear about scholarships. This is very important to parents also because of the cost of higher education. We can give anywhere from full ride scholarships to partial scholarships. That is up to the individual institutions and also by sport. And then across the country, we have 21 conferences. Those 21 conferences have on average anywhere from 10 to 14 universities that you'd be competing in. So the competition is just incredible across those conferences. We have 28 championship sports. We also have emerging and invitational sports, but specifically right now we have 28 championships. So I'm going to go ahead and slip to the next slide, specifically about I want you all to get a little feel of who we are. And this gives a little excitement, just 30 seconds, but we're going to play a quick video for you about some of our Together in Tradition. All right, so if that didn't get you guys excited, I am muted, I think so. Let's see. All right, if that didn't get you guys excited a little bit about what the NAI is, a quick overview. I also am extremely proud to talk about the NAI in our firsts. We have a lot of firsts, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but I do want to talk about just how college sports and athletics started. It started with the NAIA. We were the very first organization to actually have championship sports. It started with basketball, and our founding father is James Naismith. A lot of people think that he was just first with Kansas University, but that is incorrect. So I want you guys to make sure that you know you heard it here, that the NAI started with James Naismith, basketball player. In addition, we were the first to allow African Americans to compete. We were the first to allow women to compete in championships. And we were also the first to start an e-gaming association, which is a separate LLC. But if you decide today that maybe you don't want to play soccer or tennis or whatever your sport is, you can also sit around and play some games, and you get paid for that. So it's pretty exciting. But I would say probably our last two exciting things that we have done is we were the first to actually pass name, image, and likeness. If you're not familiar with that, that is an opportunity for you as a future student athlete to actually benefit from your name, image, and likeness. This is also a great thing for parents to hear, because we do have some of our student athletes who are actually getting some incremental income of up to $1,000 per month. So you think about, you see probably some of these big deals with NCAA, millions of dollars. No, we're not doing that. But we are doing big deals with a lot of different smaller companies within those institutions' footprint, and specifically on their region and where they're located. The last thing is we just partnered with the NFL. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of the NFL. Also, I forgot to say, Kansas City, we are the home of the Chiefs and also the Super Bowl champions. But the NFL just partnered with us a couple of years ago to start women's flag football. This is giving women a lot of opportunities to also become a college student and get paid to be a part of that. All right, just kind of hitting some highlights next on just who we are, where we're associated. We are actually in the heart of Kansas City. We're downtown Kansas City. We are physically right now, my colleague Kayla and I, and also Ellen, we are in downtown Kansas City. This is a little landscape of what our office looks like. That's a great picture of, I call it the light bright. The NAIA lights up, and those are all of our student athletes that started from 1937 all the way to 2019. There's thousands of pictures. You've got another picture of our wall of our 5 core values. That's another thing that really sets us apart from the NCAA, specifically that we train from coach down to student athlete, integrity, responsibility, respect, sportsmanship, and servant leadership. So there also is a tone within our teams and on our campuses that our student athletes live up to these. So it's not, again, just about the sport, but it's also about the culture and also about being a part of something that's bigger than just sports. All right, so where are we? We are all over the place. So wanted just to see a real quick scatter spot. I say that funny, scatter spot of what the NAI, where we are. We are mostly in the Midwest region, also in the Southeast region, and we have lots of schools on the West Coast. We are also up in Canada, in British Columbia, and then we are also located, we have one school in the Virgin Islands. So if you want to be the biggest paradise school on our all of our footprint, that is a wonderful campus right along the beach. So just wanted to give you a quick look of where we are located, and then a quick next look of where are all these schools and what conferences there. I mentioned there's 21 conferences. So you can see, again, as I mentioned, each one of these conferences has anywhere from 10, some even have up to 14 schools that are in their geographic location. And we try to do a really good job with our conferences, specifically so there's less travel for you as a student athlete, which also helps you and your experience on your campus. If you think about it, some of those NCAA schools, they're traveling from Florida to Texas, back up to the Northeast. That's a lot of time that you're not in class. That's a lot of time that you're not hanging out with people in your fraternities or sororities or any other things that you like to do in your extracurricular activities. So we are very adamant about making sure that our conferences really do fit the geographic location of where our institutions are. All right. So another misnomer, sometimes you hear about the NAIA and NCAA. Well, I have to go NCAA D3 because they have the best academic standards. Well, that's false. That's fake news, folks. And the other thing that's really cool about the NAIA is not only do you get to participate in the sport that you love, you get to get a scholarship. Within D3, you are not allowed to get a college scholarship. So you are able to get academic aid and athletic aid. We also have high standards, and we have student athletes that are wicked smart in the NAIA. And I'm going to show you another slide that's going to be super exciting. But the minimum that we will even allow in is a 2.0. You must have 12 credits per semester earning towards some type of degree. And then you've got to have 10 semesters of academic eligibility in those 4 seasons of competition. Of course, Kayla's going to go into a lot more of that in a minute. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, which I get really jazzed about. And that's because, again, the student comes first in the NAIA. This is a wicked awesome stat here. 20% of you as a future student athlete could have an opportunity to play in the postseason in the NAIA. That is not the case in NCAA. We have rules also that encourage the coach and the student and the mentoring. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. I've already mentioned our character-driven athletics, but I'm going to mention those 5 core values again: respect, responsibility, servant leadership, integrity, and sportsmanship. And with those, it starts with the coach. We are the only athletic association that actually invests in our coaches. So think about it, comes from the top down in that leadership. They are trained on that coaches driven athletics. They go through training, they have to pass it, and everyone has to be a part of that. And then they infiltrate those core values down to those student athletes. So we also have some leadership opportunities. I think that's on the next slide here. Nope, I lied. The next slide actually has to do with, again, the kids and the actual teams. This is a huge stat, guys. I already mentioned 77,000 student athletes, and out of that 77,000, over 11,000 juniors and seniors have a GPA of 3.5 and more. So I don't think academic standards are much better than that. I know I probably would not be in the NAIA today with my grades back in there. So they have really stepped up their game. The other thing I wanted to also talk about is just that the teams, specifically, we have over 2,000 teams that also have earned a scholar award with a minimum requirement of 3.0, but on average, those kids have a GPA of 3.35. That's over 2,000 teams. That's a lot of teams. All right, so looking at just a little bit about what else we do for the student athlete. Again, the student comes first, athlete second. With mental health being on the rise and issues with COVID and things that a lot of our young people are experiencing, we really focus on the mind, the body, and the character. We have resources for mental health. We even have a student association committee. So all 21 conferences actually has one representative from each one of those conferences that has the voice for you and what you really want to see within the NAIA. They just made a legislative change this year that you get a mandatory day off from your practices. They made that happen. It was no one else. It was the student athletes. Pretty wicked cool, right, guys? Let's go to the next slide, which we talk about to our leadership series, which is called The Room. So you think about what you all do on the field or in the court. I was a tennis player, so I would be on the court, or I was on the field when I did track or cross country. But it's really most important, what are you doing after your college experience? What are those leadership skills that you have gained beyond being in your sport? I will tell you right now, when you look around at the NAIA, we are filled with collegiate athletes here, and the collaboration and the camaraderie, because we have had that experience, makes us a really awesome association. All right, so let's just take a look beyond the curtain here on really what sets us apart. So I'm not going to read this whole slide to you, but I do want to highlight a few things. And when I say what sets us apart, I'm going to just say NCAA. We are very different. We also are at parity, though, at D2 and D3 when you think about the size of colleges. So again, this is your opportunity to explore what is the best fit for you. For some of you, D1 might be it because maybe you're thinking about going on and playing professionally. But if you're thinking you really want to go to college to get a degree and actually do something beyond sports, D2, D3, and the NAI are going to be probably a great fit. But I already said what sets us apart with D3, we offer college scholarships for you to play sports, and you can get academic aid on top of that. And bonus, name, image, and likeness to throw in maybe another extra $1,000 a month. We used to have great competition. I will tell you, many of our schools play with D1 schools, and many of our schools beat those D1 schools. So when I talk about there is high caliber competition, that's not with all of our schools, but we have some schools that are really amazing in the competition. There's more chances to play postseason. I already mentioned that stat, 20% more. We also have JV sports. So maybe you're not on the varsity sport yet. You can still get a college scholarship for those JV sports. I mentioned being a multi-student athlete. I played tennis. I played track and field. We don't really play it. You run it, right? I hated it. I just did it so I could stay in shape. My brother said I was going to gain a lot of weight, so I just wanted to run around campus all the time. And then the last thing I really want to hone in on is that voice from you, the student athlete. You get to make changes. You get to make a difference, specifically with legislation, with things that in your sport you want to see change within the rules. The last thing that I think that's really sets us apart, and you really need to take advantage of this, moms, parents, dads, high school students that are listening here, you need to make sure no matter what division you go, it's the best fit for you, okay? And here's the cool thing about the NAI. You actually get to go and talk with that coach, talk with those kids that are already on that team. You can go practice with that team. You cannot do that with the NCAA. So maybe you're getting a better scholarship, or maybe you think it's more prestigious to go to the NCAA. But if it's not a good fit and you have a bad experience there, you're going to have to transfer, right? So why not explore more opportunities? Why not really get to know that coach? Because that coach is going to be your leadership person for 4 years if you stick it out. And you don't want to have a bad experience for 4 years. You only go to college hopefully once, maybe grad school. But if you have a good experience, it's going to have a lifelong lasting effect on you, your degree, and who you are as a person. All right, so I'm going to just skim through these really quickly. On our website, we will give you these slides afterwards. But if you are a high school student, if you're a transfer, if you're international, if you're a parent on the call today, this is super cool. You can decide, and I'm going to throw myself an example. I mentioned tennis a lot, love it, a little obsessed. So if you play tennis, I don't want to be in Missouri. I'm in Missouri. I want to go to California. I go to California, but then I want to study marine biology. I can actually plug into our system all those, your degree, your sport, and the location you want to live. Maybe you want to stay close to home with mom and dad. Hey, I lied. I didn't really want to go that far. I stayed in Missouri. That's where I went. I did want to be 4 hours away because close enough, I could still see my mom and dad, but far enough, I still had some independence. So it's all about you. It's all about that experience. So on our website, on this page, we will again send you that link. We can even put it into the chat, but you can explore that specific opportunity for you. And we're just going to show you a couple more slides. This is what it looks like if you're a high school student. Click on it. Then you can also click on a parent. Then you're good to go. So I'm going to encourage you all to take a look at that, see what you have to offer, or what our schools have to offer. All right, so I'm going to wrap my section up because this is really where we get into the nuts and bolts. Honestly, this college bound guide, take this QR code. We have several of these throughout the presentation, but this really tells you step by step by step. So if you forget everything we said and you want to get started today, Kayla's going to show you how. She's going to tell you how, but we'll still have all that documentation for you to get started to play NAIA.
All right, thank you, Paige. Let's see here, we'll go to the next slide here. Okay, so I see most of the people on our call today are either still high school students, parents of high school students, entering freshmen. So it's really important to know, in order to play in the NAIA, you have to come through the Eligibility Center. You have to get a decision from us to determine if you're eligible to compete. First step of that is going to be PlayNAIA.org. That is our main site in which you will register. This is where you'll get your decision. This is where you'll do documents. All of that's going to be held within PlayNAIA. So this is a really important website to remember. And again, there is a QR code if you want to scan that to get started today. So just briefly, the process of the Eligibility Center. Like I said, you'll register at PlayNAIA.org to get an account going. You will pay a fee. There is a registration fee for the NAIA, I believe, just like most other eligibility centers like the NCAA. There are options for fee waivers too, I will say that. But you'll start your account, you'll go through the complete your profile phase in which you'll enter your academic and athletic history. For a lot of you that are high school students, it's simply going to be, where'd you go to high school? Where are you graduating high school? Once you submit that, then you'll be able to have a current task list in which it'll show the documentation that we need in order to determine your eligibility status. Once we get all that documentation, we apply our bylaws, and then we give you a decision if you're eligible or not to compete. So since most of the people on here today, freshmen, incoming high school students, I'm going to cover this a little bit more in depth. So you can become eligible to compete in the NAIA as early as the completion of your junior year of high school, which is great because getting a decision that early will actually help you with the recruiting process. Because if you can say, hey, I already have an eligible decision. Once I'm on campus, I'm going to be able to play. That's going to be huge. So after the completion of your junior year, if you have a 3.3 GPA on a 4.0 scale, that's actually all we need to determine your eligibility. So you could get a decision. It's called an early decision is what we would post it as for your junior year. If you don't have the 3.3, but you have a 3.0, you could also become eligible with a qualifying test score, which for the ACT is an 18, for the SAT, it's a 970 if you took those tests after May 1st of 2019. Let's say you're still just not, you don't know if you want to go to NAIA, maybe you just don't have that 3.0 quite yet. You can also get an early decision at the end of the first semester of your senior year. At that point, if you have a 2.8 GPA or higher on a 4.0 scale, or a 2.5 or higher with a qualifying test score, you can also get that early decision then. Still don't know if you want to go NAIA, still looking at your options, maybe you just don't have that 2.5 quite yet. The last opportunity to become eligible going into your freshman year is graduating high school with a 2.3 GPA or higher. And if you don't have the 2.3, there's a 2 of 3 option in which you could graduate with a 2.0, have a qualifying test score, or rank in the top 50% of your graduating class. So you would just need to meet 2 of those 3 in order to receive an eligible decision. And again, as Paige mentioned earlier, when you're in the NAIA, you're not just an athlete, you're a student athlete. Students, all of your coursework is so important. So there's a few different rules that you have to meet to continue eligibility in the NAIA. So the first one is the 24-36-hour rule, in which in your previous 2 full-time semesters, you have to have earned at least 24 credits, or if you're at a quarter school, 36 within your last 3 quarters. Again, it doesn't seem like we have too many transfers on the call, but if you are interested in this, there is a one-sheeter kind of about the 24-36-hour rule that you can use the QR code to scan. And this is really where you are a student first. So the progress rule is making sure that you're progressing towards earning a degree at your institution. So once you have competed in 1 season of competition, going into any additional seasons, you have to have at least a 2.0 GPA. And you need to earn the appropriate hours. So if you've only had 1 season charge and you're going into your 2nd season, you have to have at least 24 hours completed behind you. Same going into a 3rd season, you have to have 48. Going into a 4th season, 72. So we really want to make sure that you are progressing towards earning that degree. So you have to meet these rules in order to ensure that. So the NCSA provides a really great feature in which you can enter information about kind of your academic athletic status to see what am I going to be eligible? Like kind of get a glimpse into what your eligibility future looks like. So that's one really great feature of NCSA, but Paige is going to talk a little bit more about some other features.
Yeah, I am so excited to just even mention NCSA. They are a national partner of ours. They really help, and parents and high school students here, you really want to connect with them. And here's why. They help you build a profile for yourself. They make you available for coaches that are across the United States. So these coaches will actually go, if again, they're recruiting for soccer, they're going to go in, and the first thing they're going to want to see, have you actually become eligible? That makes you more attractive to a coach. So you do want to start the process today, even if you're not sure where you want to go. And you also want to build a profile with NCSA. They not only are a great partner of ours, they are a great partner of you. It's not very expensive to actually create this profile. It's a minimal fee. I think it's a little over $100. But I want to encourage you all to take advantage of this because it really helps you become more attractive to a coach to find that, again, that right fit for you.
And then this is just a list of eligibility resources that are going to be beneficial no matter what part of your career you're in. If you're still in high school, if you're graduated, thinking about transferring, if you're a parent, all of this is really, really, really useful. So this will be included in the PDF on the Find Your Path website. So you'll be able to click on all these links, kind of go through all that information. They just go really in depth on a lot of this information. You won't have questions after, but if you do, we are always available and willing to help you answer those questions.
Awesome. Well, we are not going to leave you yet because we're going to open to questions, but we do want to quickly play one more video because this does really wrap us up. Compete with the best and experience the difference. NAIA. I guess what we'll do now is we've had a lot of questions come through. So Ellen is going to ask us questions, and then what Kayla and I will do is just answer them.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we had several come through, so I'm going to go back to kind of the beginning section of the presentation. And we had a question about whether the NAIA assists with you as a student getting connected with some of those NIL deals. So Paige, you mentioned that
Yes.
the NAIA was the first collegiate association to pass NIL legislation, which is awesome. It's definitely something to celebrate. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of like how that works?
I would love to share that. And we have another national partner. That's one of the things about the NAIA. Our partners that we have, we try to make sure that it benefits our schools and our student athletes. And we have partnered with a company called Open Doors. Even if your institution is not a part of Open Doors, any student athlete in the NAIA can create a profile, and it's amazing. It's called the NAIA Marketplace. I personally have actually been looking at it because you as a student athlete can say, okay, I want to benefit from my social. A lot of individuals are influencers, or they have a great following on their social accounts. Or maybe you just want to, again, I bring up tennis again, sorry. You want to teach tennis lessons on the side for a parks and board recreation or for a company sponsored by. We help you create that profile through Open Doors. It's free to you. And then you become available to that community. So communities can search for you. Businesses can search for you. We at the NAIA can search for you because we actually like to use the voice of our student athletes to share our messages. So great question.
Awesome. Thanks, Paige. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit to some of the eligibility specific ones. We got a question about the NAIA versus the NCAA. Kayla, can you tell us a little bit about, are they the same thing? Do they just register in one place? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are separate associations. So the NCAA and NAIA are separate. In order to compete in the NAIA, you need to have an account with us. So having an account with NCAA will not transfer over to the NAIA. You would need to have your own account. Again, at PlayNAIA.org, you would need to register there. You can be registered in both. The great thing about getting an early decision and coming out of high school and getting a decision with us is you don't have to be on a school shortlist. So you can use that decision, kind of like I mentioned, as a recruiting tool. So you can use that decision to ask around, I want to come to your school and I'm already eligible to compete. So you don't have to be on a school shortlist. You can also be registered with NCAA, but to compete at an NAIA school, you do need to come through us and receive an eligible decision.
Yeah, I will add, Kayla, I think there was some additional questions about maybe timing. So like you mentioned, getting a final decision from the eligibility center can happen as soon as your junior year. And the NCAA depends on the division. Definitely you can start your registration with an Explore account with them. But once you know which division you're going to go to, you will have to purchase whatever service they require for the division that your chosen institution is in. And ultimately, you'll have to get a final look from them upon graduation. So there are some differentiators there. Each association has different processes. There's kind of a single flow process. If you're seeking NAIA eligibility, it's a little bit more complex on the NCAA side. But again, plugging back into our NCSA partners, if you have an account with them, they can definitely be helpful in helping you navigate kind of both of those processes if you need to.
Another really big difference too is in the NAIA, we do not look at core courses. So I'm sure if you've looked into the NCAA, you've seen that is one of their requirements. We do not look at core courses. We simply look at the GPA, potentially test scores, and potentially class rank. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Awesome. We got another question about what this looks like for international students. So you gave us a lot of really good information about general eligibility, but is there specific info that international students need to know?
Absolutely. So if you graduate high school outside of the United States, in our system, you are considered an international student. All international students have to go through INCRED, which is a company housed under the NAIA. They are an international credential evaluator. So they would receive your documents, they would determine the comparability of it to a US system. They send those documents to us and we use that for eligibility. Basically, outside of that, the eligibility rules are the same in regards to the GPA and such. You can't get an early decision as an international student. You can only get that once you have graduated. So that's important to note. But the big difference is you have to go through INCRED, and that's the only evaluation company that we accept for eligibility. So that's another step with PlayNAIA. You also need to do INCRED.
I'd like to make one more note. If you're looking at a junior college, my understanding is that INCRED is also the registration that you also need to use for a junior college.
Yeah.
If you're international.
Yeah, good point, Paige. Awesome. Okay, another eligibility type of question.
Really quick, the INCRED link, it's just going to be incredevals.org. So that's the website you'll go to register that account.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah. Okay, so what about timing of that PlayNAIA registration, Kayla? When do you recommend that students get that started?
Yeah, so you can get it started basically whenever in high school. We don't begin accepting transcripts until the completion of your junior year. So you can start it your sophomore year. I think someone asked about sophomore year. You can start it, you can get it going, but we just won't be able to accept any documents until that time. So it's kind of up to you. Once you pay the registration fee, it is non-refundable. So if that's something in which you want to wait a little bit closer until you know exactly what you're doing, that's an option too. But like I said, getting that early decision is such a recruiting advantage. So if you're interested in NAIA at all, I would get that decision as early as you can. But again, that's going to be end of your junior year.
Great. And what about for the parents on the call, Kayla? Is there a way for our parents to stay involved and maybe help their students that are here on the call with us too, kind of through that eligibility process?
Absolutely. Yeah. So at PlayNAIA, there's also a spot. If you scroll down a little bit, I believe it's yellow. It says for parents. And if you click on that section, you can actually register a parent account and you can pair it to your student's account. So you can monitor their progress as well without just being in their account. You can have your own information. There's different resources on the parents page that will help you understand the process a little bit better. But yes, you can absolutely monitor the account so you know that your student's doing what they need to do.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to go back to our NCSA. Paige or Kayla, either one of you who might be familiar with that platform, how does the student who's using an account on NCSA kind of get noticed by our NAIA coaches?
So all the coaches, it's all coaches across all divisions, they go to this. This is one of their go-to sites. I don't know, it's thousands and thousands of coaches across the United States that go here when, especially if they're a lot of our schools are in some smaller areas and maybe they don't know about, coming to Kansas City, Missouri or whatever. The coaches will go to this site to then recruit. They also have other opportunities too for recruiting with international students as well, because some of the international areas don't have collegiate sports. So there's other opportunities, but the coaches are on this site. It's their go-to platform.
And the pre-eligibility indicator drill that Kayla mentioned, I believe gives you a badge on your NCSA profile. And so a lot of NAIA coaches can filter their searches based on students who have done that pre-eligibility indicator. So that's another way for you to get noticed by them if you're considering coming to an NAIA institution.
Yes.
Great. Popping through some of these other questions here.
So determining if you are an international student or a domestic student is based off of where you graduate high school. So if you graduate high school in the United States, you're going to be considered a domestic student for our purposes. So unless you go to like an international college at some point, you most likely won't need in-credit. It would just be based off of your senior year graduation transcript.
Great. Okay, we have a question here about why is it more common in the NAIA for students to have the ability to be a dual sport athlete than in some other associations?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Ellen. Thank you. Just because I was, so I feel like I can talk really great about this. So again, it's because there's so many mandates when you're an NAIA NCAA student athlete, that you are really more of an athlete first. And sometimes it's why you probably can play a D1 sport, right? Because maybe you're even better, but there's expectations that goes with that. So you have to decide, why are you going to college? Do you want to just be able to continue playing the sport that you love and actually get a degree and thrive in that degree? Or do you think that you're going to go on professionally, because that will be your first? It will not be your collegiate education. It will be about that. So the coaches, and again, I mentioned the mandatory day off. That doesn't happen in the NCAA either. We have a lot of restrictions. We also adhere to a lot of religious affiliations and schools who maybe can't compete on certain days. All of those things are taken into account. I mentioned the mind, body, the character. That's the core of who we are. So there's a lot of differences between the NCAA and the NAIA based on our foundations and what we set ourselves out to be. And again, talking as a student athlete, specifically, you're able to do that because there's not as much expectations for training 3 times a day and also having a practice. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Great.
Saw a question about getting your in-credit evaluation really quick. So if you are graduating high school outside of the US, you can start your application, but we won't be able to, and you can even send in like partial documents, but we will really need completed high school grades, transcripts in order to determine your eligibility. So yes, you can start it before you complete your senior year, you can send stuff in, but the document we're really going to need is like a senior final year transcript with all your completed grades.
Thanks, Kayla. Okay, we also got a question about some of the recruiting rules and how early can those conversations begin. This parent is asking about, can their son start reaching out to NAIA coaches when they're only a sophomore?
My understanding is yes. And so with that, it's the same where you can actually email them, you can call them. You would make that appointment with that coach and they would talk to you about the best time for them. So again, it becomes about that personal conversation that you have. But yes, you can definitely start that conversation earlier.
Great. Well, it looks like our questions are kind of winding down. I did see a few of you ask where the recording of this will be available. This has also been streaming on Facebook Live, so it will be available as a recording on Facebook. We will send it out via email to our list of students, and it will also be housed at that Find Your Path URL, which you can see on your screen here, kind of embedded on that page. You'll also be able to download the slide deck from there, which will enable you to click on all those hyperlinks that Kayla mentioned, scan those QR codes to get the one-sheeters about the various rules and resources. So I think with that, we are able to wrap up today's presentation. I want to thank all of you for spending this time with us this afternoon. We know it's really busy. Summer breaks are starting, so maybe you're taking some time out of a vacation. So thanks for that. And also big thanks to Paige and Kayla for bringing their expertise to us today. We really appreciate your all's time as well.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
If you have any other further questions, the only thing we'll say is on our website on NAI.org, feel free to reach out, but we will also send you an email after this that if you have other questions, you can specifically reach out to that email address to answer any of the questions maybe we didn't, or maybe you're thinking of something later after you've thought a little bit about how great the NAI is.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.